bill be read a second time. I call the member for Ballina.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise on behalf of the Greens to speak on the Environment Legislation Amendment Bill 2021. And Madam Speaker, we support it, but I think it's important to go on the record and say that the paradigm that we currently have in this state of how we view pollution and the vandalism, the environmental vandalism that we see, particularly by the big polluters, where it is the EPA, and no disrespect to any worker at the EPA, but the chronic underfunding of that department, of that institution, and it is a toothless tiger. It literally is a toothless tiger, and that is extremely well documented. So this is welcome, but without, I share the opposition's position, we share that. Without adequate resourcing and staffing, the EPA continues to be a toothless tiger, and that's certainly what my experience as a local member for 7 years is seeing that well-meaning, highly skilled workers, just simply the caseloads are, they're just absolutely unmanageable, and also the big polluters, particularly in areas of beautiful areas such as Alstonville in my electorate, where we had an asphalt plant. Now, there's nothing wrong with an asphalt plant. There's nothing wrong with we need asphalt. There's no problem with that. But because that was historically built before the growth of a village, what you had was residents living within cooee of an asphalt plant and really, really severe health issues. I went to visit on a number of occasions residents near that asphalt plant, and my eyes were stinging. I had a petroleum taste in my mouth, and yet the delays to have proper assessment, and then the rules, it was just a joke, Madam Speaker. It was an absolute joke. I am very pleased at that plant, no disrespect to the owners, but the plant is winding up because it's just absolutely out of step and has impacted the health of people in that area. We welcome the amendments because we do believe that it will strengthen corporate liability and the current polluter pays mechanisms and enforcement. The Greens' position in terms of protecting intergenerational resources such as clean air and clean water and people's health, and we heard about cancer clusters today in Newcastle. To me, those things are priceless, virtually priceless. And until we put a hefty bill attached to the destruction of those natural resources, we are nowhere near addressing environmental protection. But this bill, it does largely close loopholes that people use to avoid prosecution by the EPA for dumping waste, and we know that's a major issue, and we support that. The Environmental Defenders Office examined how the New South Wales Environmental Protection Agency can put in place mechanisms to reduce greenhouse gas emissions using its existing powers to control pollution and waste, recognising that uncontrolled emissions will have significant consequences for the environment and human health. We've been talking about this for over a decade. In their report, they noted that Australia's average annual temperature has warmed by around 1.5 degrees Celsius, and the best available science tells us that average temperatures continue to rise. This is well-settled science, and I'm just reiterating. But what this does tell us is that the EPA has enormous potential to address that, and we've seen the courts starting to address it, and it's a welcome trajectory that it's on. The New South Wales Environmental Protection Authority is the lead environmental regulator in New South Wales and is responsible for protecting the quality of our environment and human health. But their work cannot be effective if they are constantly faced with barriers to prosecute. This bill is a good start, but we'll need to see, obviously, more tightening of regulations. And finally, Madam Speaker, the EDO's reports also stipulated that urgent and rapid reductions obviously, in greenhouse gas emissions is required. And I think what will be really interesting, well, what we're seeing is some of the biggest polluters in terms of emissions are acting in ways that are exemplary, and we're sort of playing catch up in terms of the law. So that's a very good thing that behaviours are changing. In my electorate, in the Ballina electorate, we do see illegal dumping near the beaches, which is very, very unfortunate. And certainly every interaction that I've had with the EPA in my electorate has been very good. And I repeat that I think that it is nothing to do with the workers there or in the institution itself, but it is that chronic underfunding. It is it needs to do the good work and extend that good work, and that takes time. It absolutely takes time to investigate. And then what we want to see are hefty, hefty fines. You know, when it is cheaper to destroy an area, when it's cheaper to expose toxic waste in a river or in waterways than it is to be fined for it, you will never change the behaviour. You will never absolutely deter that behaviour. And that's what we need to do. We need to start putting a premium price on clean water and beautiful and species and biodiversity. It's time, you know, if that's the way that if that's the way we need to do it, then let's do it, because at the moment there is really no deterrent to stop the big polluters. So, you know, in the other place we will probably try and amend this legislation to strengthen, particularly to pave the path for greater resourcing of the EPA. But we support it. We support it broadly. Thank you.
Thank you, Member for